Nicky, did you see any other game in its entirety over the weekend, or was it just? I know you were down at Wexford Kilkenny, so it probably makes it difficult to see another game.
Well, I saw the game that was on the Sunday game last night. I was watching the Dublin and Galway match on as I was watching the match in Wexford Park, and clearly Dublin put in they moved away in whirlwind fashion from Galway. Galway were really struggling with their game, and I suppose it's something that Henry is going to have to consider how he's having these fade out series. Yes, they came again at the end and possibly could have matched, but I think Michael O'Donoghue is actually doing a good job here with Dublin. I think he said to us after the last day that there was a lot of younger players. He was trying to get to play a particular style, and he was justified in the decision to move from Parnell Park to Croke Park on the basis that the type of player he has now is more comfortable in the wider expanses of Croke Park. Now, if he's to get back some of the guys who went travelling this year, great them back into the panel, and I don't know if that's going to happen. But he's working on a group of players at the moment and making something of them. And while they faded at times in Nolan Park against Kilkenny, I still thought that they didn't play too badly. And they're a team that if he stays with them himself and Franny Ford, and they'll do a good job in Dublin, and they will be making Dublin a stronger force. So, but Galway, against Kilkenny, anything could happen in the Leinster final, and who knows who will win that one. As regards I expected Limerick to beat Cork, and I always thought it was going to be tight because I think Don Kiley, he laid a marker at the start by naming 22 the last day are still his key men, Garrod Hegarty and Seamus Flanagan, just to mention two. They were key. He really put it up to those guys yesterday to prove to him that they should be starting on the team and all of that. And they made a big difference. But Burns at wing back is becoming such a huge player for them. He's possibly still in the running for Hurl of the Year again this year, to be honest with the way that guy is playing. His radar is just the best in the business. And but I think Cork will be disappointed. There was always going to be, with Waterford out of it yesterday, there was always going to be one big name apart from Waterford going to lose out. So that's just the way it is. And as regards the tip game, I just felt I knew there'd be a bit of a kick in Waterford, and Davy talked about all this stuff. I heard his post-match interview, and that he certainly had a fair rant at an awful lot of people. But at the same time, he has to ask himself how it has got to this stage that they can only deliver this performance at the last game of the season when players and managers are trying to just get something out of the year. But Liam Cahill will be terribly disappointed, and he has a bit of soul searching to do before he heads off to Tullamore to play in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay, well, Nicky, look, you've been brilliant with your time this morning, and hopefully we'll be chatting to you again soon.
Okay, guys, have a good day. Take care.
Cheers, Nicky.
Brilliant to have Nicky on there. Yeah, look, I was at the Galway-Dublin match yesterday, and I suppose just to go through the bullet points from the game, Dublin went 12 points up in the second half, and they were all over Galway. But then Galway made this incredible comeback from 219 to 13 points down on the 43rd minute. They were ahead just before the end of the game, the end of normal time. And it was Dublin who had to pull it out of the fire late on a couple of times. Donald Burke, he scored frees to sort of just keep them right there. But it was quite a performance from each team in either half. And I wondered afterwards, was this a bit of a Dublin fade out, a Galway fight back, or a little bit of both? I think it was a little bit of both, because Dublin could barely create a chance in the second half. Like in the first half, they scored 2-16, which, would win you the odd game this year. For example, I don't think, I think that would have been enough to beat Waterford in any of their first three games, for example. And obviously Waterford changed that yesterday. But Dublin had created 31 chances in the second half, 4 goal chances, even though 2 of them were gifts. In the second half, Dublin created just 12 scoring chances, 6 of which were scored. In that time, Galway created 30 scoring chances and only put away 14. This is a game that Galway actually could have won because they steamrolled Dublin in the second half, which kind of makes it pretty impressive. Like, nobody likes going 12 behind, but if you're in the dressing room afterwards, how you finish is nearly more important. Henry Shefflin is going to be a lot more pleased and able to put a better sort of slant on that than Micheál Donoghue.
Yeah, do you think so? Because I think the fact that Dublin drew level, having looked like they'd blown a lead and all the momentum was at Galway, I still think they got something out of the game. If they'd lost by 1, I think it would have been a real killer for Dublin. I still think the fact they got something out of it kind of is like lads, you could see what we were able to do for 45 minutes. And we were, when the gun was put to our head at the end, we were like, that was a fair free from Donald Burke. Like, that was right out the sideline, and it never wavered. It was straight and true. Just to go back, like, just Shane, the 2 goals were calamitous. You'd have to say, like, yeah, they were like Dana Murphy, the first one, like that was, you wouldn't see that in an under-12 match normally. Do you know what I mean? Then he goes
casual, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then he goes to puck out the ball like within 2 seconds after, and you're just thinking you need to calm probably and take your time, reset, get a few deep breaths, and kind of go again. The second one was, we were always told not to puck the ball across your own goal as a young fella. Like, you can probably do it a lot more in modern hurling now, but when there's somebody like lurking, you don't go near there. And in fairness to Danny Sutcliffe, he took that goal well, and I thought he really, like, that was his best performance, I would say, in a Dublin shirt for a long, long time.
Yeah, that was, Danny really re-announced himself as a top player because, his performance was excellent. He got the goal, he got a couple of points with it. Some other lads who really stood out for Dublin, Mark Rogan was excellent in midfield. Like, he was named captain for Crokes when he was 19 or 20. So he's always been a back as far as I've seen. Now, I'm sure he can play other positions, but, it's his first season in there. He played excellently in the first half in particular. All of Dublin ran out of juice in the second half. Paddy Doyle, he was one of the young players at the start of the year that I absolutely teed up, and he's franked that form. Conor Donoghue, his first season. Sean Curry, who was corner forward, actually he played wing forward. He was very good in the first half in particular. He only ever played, I think, a couple of minutes during the COVID year. So this is a much changed team for Dublin. And it was quite interesting that Micheál Donoghue would, of course, all the Galway players there, he knows the colour of the knickers of most of those Galway players, realistically.
Just I hope not.
And Franny Ford would obviously know them very well also. But a couple of the matchups and different things that he did, I found quite interesting. He put Donald Burke in the full forward line, and, Galway had awful trouble with him. Now, he ended up scoring 3 from play, and obviously he fired over his frees as he normally does, but he caused an awful lot of bother. The other thing is Paddy Smith completely shut down Conor Whelan. And Conor Whelan, who, we rate massively highly, has been very quiet in the big games this year. He was taken off against Kilkenny. He was very quiet here and was held scoreless. And you'd have to give Paddy Smith a lot of credit. Remember last year he was very good on TJ Reid, or was it the year before? But look, he's had some big games. And you would have thought that Owen O'Donnell would have stayed in the full back line as well. But in the first half, he was actually more out in the half back line. And he came up and scored a couple of points. So that was an interesting use.
I'd say that might have given his club manager a few bit of food for thought for there in the air.
But like in the second half, then Galway changed things around a little bit. Like Declan McLaughlin, very young player, very slight player. He was hitting some 50-50 balls, and John Bellew did very well to sort of nudge him out of the way. So like it was a tough one for him. But you had the likes of Jason Flynn and Brian Kincannon was brought in. So that meant that Owen O'Donnell had to go back closer to his own goal. But Kincannon, I presume he wasn't right if he wasn't starting. And he didn't really make that much of an impact at all, which was quite surprising. Conor Cooney, he's going to struggle to hold on to his position, I think, if his form doesn't jump up. Because a bit like Conor Whelan, he was also taken off at Nolan Park. And he was incredibly quiet here. He had a penalty attempt, which, I'm president of the Sean Brennan fan club. Mm-hmm. But what a penalty save across himself. Now, it was obviously a good height for a keeper, but, still in all, like, that's an incredible save from Sean. For whatever reason here, my chair is sinking. It's driving me mad.
Just a quick one, Shane. Joseph Cooney was a good bit further forward, was he? And he was brilliant from what I saw of it.
He was kind of midfield and then half forward, but just that whole zone on the left-hand side. 5 points from play. Unbelievable.
Yeah, just on Conor Whelan as well. Galway, like, bigger picture in mind, getting silverware, potentially getting to another semi-final, final. He's going to have to start firing, isn't he, realistically?
Look, I look around and I'm just wondering who these experienced Galway players is getting it done at the moment. Obviously, Brian Kincannon was injured, so he couldn't really do it. Jason Flynn came on and he did all right. Obviously, he doesn't fully have Henry Shefflin's confidence at the moment if he's not been started, and some younger lads are. But I thought Evan Nyland, who has plenty of critics locally and probably around the country, because he must be 24 now, and you're thinking he would have been really established by now. But as this game went on, he really stepped up, and not only did he take the frees, but he scored 3 from play as well. Tom Monaghan had 3 points, probably had maybe 4 wides as well. Ronan Glennon didn't do so bad. Pádraig Mannion, funnily enough, so he was half back, rather quiet game. He was actually moved full back on Donald Burke for a while. I don't think we've seen Park Mannion full back since he DDT'd Seamus Callan back in, was that 2015?
2015, I think. Yeah, Shane, there's some great, like, subtle kind of comments coming in, having jibes at you. Detox 101, Shane's sinking share, designed and built and tip maybe. There's another comment in earlier where some fella said, I'm just joining the show now for the second half, like tip yesterday. Like, people just, there's no jibe like a hurling jibe or a GA jibe.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I actually favorited that so I could bring it up at some stage. Yeah, he went to me nicely. I have to credit that Porrick stack. Well played.
Wasn't it mad yesterday? Like, at different stages, Dublin were in the Leinster final for long stages yesterday. And at least, like, and they'll all know from that 2019 game against Laois, I'm sure that they won't be taking that for granted going in against the Carlow team that are going to be, like, you know, cock a hoop after winning the Joe McDonagh at the weekend. But I thought there was a lot of really heartening things from a Dublin point of view. Keenan Sullivan's pace caused a lot of trouble at different times as well.
If the ball would just stick to him more, like, I think he's absolutely brilliant and he got his 1-1. But, like, if the ball stick to him a little bit more, when he turns and goes, there's very few that can stop him.
Yeah, it was a funny game at times in the first half as well, though. It was kind of, I don't know, like, it was a bit mad. There was a lot of Dublin lads in a hell of a lot of space at different stages, like getting free shots away. I thought it was strange. Gerard O'Gracon had a comment in there saying that Galway's only game to win in Croke Park since the 2017 All-Ireland final is against Wexford in that COVID game, which they won well. And they've really struggled with the Dubs in really meaningful games, shall we say. 2019 end round robin game, Leinster semi-final 2021, and this game the other day. And they were, you know, at long stages of the game, you don't think they're going to get anything out of it. So, like, they probably saved face somewhat. But again, if you look at it in Leinster, the two Leinster finalists, like, there's big question marks over the two of them. Realistically, like, Kilkenny's personnel, we're not sure who they're going to have for the Leinster final. Galway's form is very indifferent, and the form of a couple of their best players is indifferent. Someone had a question in there just wondering about Cathal Mannion. I think he's injured. He had a hamstring injury earlier on in the league, and that seems to have kind of popped up again. He came off really early the last day, so that's a bit of a worry as well. But, like, I think both managers and both sets of players came away with something yesterday. If Dublin had lost, I think it would have been a minor disaster because they played so well up until probably the 50th minute.
Okay, let's